Hello art friends! Today we're going to make recycled art seahorses using recycled materials. We're going to create a fun project and help the environment too. So let's find out which art supplies you need and let's get started. So these are the supplies that you need in order to create your recycled art seahorse. You need thin cardboard. So recycle some type of cardboard that you have at home, whether it's a cereal box or a snack box. You just need it to be thin so that it's easier for you to cut it out. You need scissors, of course, to do your cutting. You need Elmer's glue or any type of liquid glue so that it holds your found objects onto your seahorse. You need a pencil to do your sketching. And you need acrylic paint. So you choose the color paint that you want your seahorse to be. Plus, we're going to also do the color white. We need acrylic paint because this style paint is going to really paint over the found objects that we add onto our seahorse. So it's the chosen color that you want, plus the color white, because we're going to blend the white into the color to create a gradient or an ombre effect. And then the last thing you need are found objects. These are the objects that we're going to add onto our seahorse. So anything that you have lying around your house that you can recycle and use for this project, such as bottle caps from the recycling bin. Maybe you have some shells that you found this summer while you're at the beach, paper clips, buttons. I even recycled a little piece of a lemon bag from the fruit bag in my refrigerator to use for this project, a pipe cleaner, some ribbon, little wooden shapes and beads. So kind of go around your house and see if you can gather up some of those things that you can use in this project. We were trying to add the art element of texture to this project. So texture is something that describes the way a surface feels. So we're trying to add those found objects onto our seahorse to create the element of texture. So gather up your art supplies and let's get started. An optional art supply that you can get is glitter paint. It's an option, so you don't have to use it, but if you want to get glitter paint, we're going to use that at the end after we're done painting our seahorse to add a little bit of sparkle on there. So any type of glitter paint, whether it's gold, silver, pink, multicolor, anything is fine. We're just going to use that as a little added addition of enhancement onto our sculpture. So if you want this option, include that in your supply list. Today we're going to be making recycled art. Recycled art is creating art from discarded materials like cardboard and plastic. Artists that make recycled art take those materials and make it into something new. Not only is it fun and exciting to create something new through recycling, but we're also helping the environment and our planet. Our theme of the project today, the seahorse, pays tribute to ocean conservation and how we can repurpose things like plastic bottle caps and plastic to reduce the plastic pollution in our oceans. Marine debris and plastic pollution pose a serious threat to our ocean life and marine life, and small actions like reducing plastic, cleaning up your trash on the beach, and recycling are mindful contributions that can make a huge impact. So remember, what goes around comes around, so make sure that you recycle. So the first step in creating our seahorse is drawing our seahorse onto the cardboard. What we're going to be doing is drawing a simple shape, a simple silhouette of the seahorse, but we are going to add some lines and reference points. That way it makes it a little bit easier when you're adding your found objects onto the cardboard. So you're going to sketch in pencil onto your sheet of cardboard. Remember, sketch on the plain side, the brown side. And I'm going to do my sketching in Sharpie just so that you can see the lines. So we're going to start off at the top of the cardboard and we're going to make a rainbow shape or half a circle. So you're going to go from one side all the way over to the other side. Just a simple rainbow shape. And then what you're going to do is you're going to curve out a little bit and then just go back in. So it's almost like you're completing a circle there. We're going to leave that for a second and we're going to go over here. So we're going to extend this part of the seahorse out like a rectangle shape. You're going to curve the end And then you're going to go back in. Okay, now back over here. So we're going to take where we stopped and we're just going to make a straight line that goes all the way down. So take your pencil and just bring that line all the way down, almost all the way to the bottom, and then stop. Okay, back up here. We're going to do a curved line going this way. So I'm just going to curve it right there. Okay, so now we're going to come out and we're going to create our seahorse's belly. So we're going to come down and just go out and bring it in. Because now we're going to go into making the tail down here. So after you do the belly, you're going to come down with your line for the tail, straight down, and now we're going to curve it in. So it comes around. I tell my students sometimes like a roller coaster, so it's going one way, then you're going to do a little curved line, and now we're going to go back the other way to connect it. So bring this around and connect it right back over there. So the next lines that we're going to add are the reference lines and details that we can use when we add our found objects onto our seahorse. We're going to start off with the eye for our seahorse. So right about here, you're just going to make a small circle, and that will be an opportunity for you to add something to that spot. Next, we're going to add the spikes that come around. So those are kind of like curved zigzag lines. So what we do is we go right up to a point and then come down and just do like a slight curve there. Go up to a point, come down, up to a point, come down. And you're just going to do that almost halfway down the seahorse's back. Inside of those spikes, you're going to add lines that come down. Again, this will be a good line that you can add some things on top of, like a little piece of cardboard or a pipe cleaner. Just a good reference point when you start adding those found objects on there. Okay, the next thing that we're going to add is the fin. So we're going to do a curved line going up, a curved line going down, and then we're going to connect it with a wavy line. Inside of that fin, you can also add some lines. Again, you're not going to really see those lines, especially when we paint over it, but those are areas that you can add some of our found objects onto. The last part that we're going to sketch is the inside line of the belly. So you're going to take your pencil and you're going to go out a little bit and then slowly come back in and attach it to the body there. Kind of like a wavy line. And then inside of the belly, same thing, you can add some more reference lines so that when you add your objects on there, you'll know exactly where to glue them. So the next part of this project after the sketching is complete is cutting out the seahorse. So of course you need your scissors and you're going to cut very carefully. So stay on your pencil line as you're cutting it out. It's going to be a little bit more tricky than cutting paper, but the thin cardboard should not be too difficult. Best as you can, just try to go slowly, especially around some of those curved items. take your time because we don't want to ruin the nice shape of the seahorse that we created. Just take your time going around those curves. So I'm going to take my time completing mine, cutting it out, going all the way around, especially be careful around the tail, and then I will check back with you for the next part. So now that our seahorse is cut out, our next part is adding the found objects onto the seahorse. So you're going to gather up all of those found objects, and one of the most important parts of this step is planning out those found objects before you glue them down. You want to make sure that you like them where they're positioned, play around with different shapes. You might like what you do when you start planning them and putting them in different spots. So I have a variety of different found objects on here, like the bottle cap. I have the netting from the fruit bag. I also have a little bit of that ribbon tool and shells. And I've just kind of played around where I want things to go. If you have any leftover cardboard from cutting out the seahorse, you can cut those into smaller little pieces, and those make nice little add-ons to where we have some of those little detailed lines, and you can add them on there. And if you have a pipe cleaner is another fun thing that you can add on because it can be bent, and you can just trim that down into smaller sizes and just add it into spots like maybe the lines of where the spikes are, or even on parts of the belly. So take a look at your found objects. The goal is to cover the entire seahorse with a variety of objects because we're looking to create the texture, and then we're going to go on to gluing. So the next part is gluing our found objects onto our seahorse. Again, before I glue, I plan to make sure that I like where everything is positioned on my seahorse. And for this part, you're going to use your liquid Elmer's glue or any type of liquid glue to glue those objects on there. However, some of these things that are a little heavier, such as the shells and maybe the bottle caps, might need something that's stronger. So I'm going to use my hot glue gun. If you have this, you can use it, but please only use it with adult supervision because a glue gun can get very hot. So again, we're not worried about the colors on here because this is going to get covered with acrylic paint. We just want to make sure we have a variety of different objects and the different textures. So you're going to take your glue and you're just going to apply it to all the spots where you want to add your found objects to. What's nice about the liquid glue is that it does dry clear if you get a little bit too much on there. And it really does a good job of holding most of these objects, onto the cardboard. Put a little bit more on there. Remember, the goal is to really kind of cover a lot of the area of the seahorse. The whole thing will get painted, but we don't want to leave too many spots that are plain. So we really want to get into those areas and glue our objects down. Just take your time gluing all your things on there. It's kind of fun using these recycled materials to add objects onto our seahorse. Now when you're gluing, if you have any things that are kind of extending over the edge, such as maybe this tool, what I can do is once it's dried, I can go back in and I can just trim around the edges, any parts that are kind of hanging over. So finish up your gluing, and then I'm going to check back with you for the next part. So now that your seahorse is complete with the found objects, the next part is painting. So get your paint set up, your paintbrush, your cup of water, probably a placemat so that you can paint on top of that, a napkin or a paper towel that you can put off to the side. We're going to be using acrylic paint, and again, we want to use this type of paint because it's going to adhere to those found objects and really stick on there. If you have a brush that looks like this one, sort of a stiff brush, this is going to help you paint. It's going to help you get into those recessed areas. If you don't have that type of brush and you have something that looks like this is fine. You can even use a sponge. If you have a small sponge, that's another way that you can use that tool to paint the seahorse. We're going to paint at least 2 coats. We want to make sure we have enough coverage to get everything covered because we don't want the color of our found objects to show through. And what we're trying to create today is something that is like an ombre effect or gradient where it goes from dark to light. And we're going to achieve that by painting that using our color plus white onto our seahorse. So gather up all the materials that you need to start painting and let's get started. Okay, so now we're ready to get started painting, and you have your paint on your little dish and we're ready to get started. So you don't need to dip into water. You can dip right into the paint from your brush. And you're just going to paint right over the top of all of the found objects on your seahorse. You don't want to paint too rough because you don't want to pop these things off. Remember, they're just glued on there. So really just take your time going around. You're going to want to maybe dab into some of those little sections, because we don't want any of the brown cardboard showing through. Just paint right over. That's why it's really nice when you have a placemat, because you can go right to the edge and not have to worry about getting it on the table or whatever surface that you're painting on. The acrylic paint is great because it's going to paint right over plastic things like our plastic bottle cap and these beads. Even the metal, I had the little top of the can over there, the metal tab, it paints right over that. And it even paints over things like the pipe cleaner and the fabric. So this is where acrylic paint is really great. It dries fast and it can paint over a lot of different materials and different surfaces. So we're not using the white yet, we're just using the chosen acrylic color. Just getting the whole top part of the seahorse painted. I really like the way this ribbon looks on here, and the netting kind of looks like seaweed. Keep painting. And if by chance when you're painting something happens to pop off, what I do is I just put it off to the side. Usually I'll paint it the color and let it dry, and then at the end I just glue it back on. That's going to happen, and don't get worried about that because it can easily be fixed. So you're going to get the head done. And right about to the middle here is where we're going to start adding some of our white in. Just try to go back and into some of those little recessed areas. Very carefully, maybe get your brush in there and just kind of wiggle it around. Okay, now I'm going to dip into the white without even cleaning my brush. I'm just going to dip right into my white paint. And that's going to make a lighter version of the color that you're using. So when you add white to a color, you're adding value. You're making it lighter. Keep dabbing in some of those sections. You can see how pretty the color looks as it gets a little bit lighter as it goes down. If I find that I'm getting a little bit too light, I don't want it to become pure white, I can always, take a little bit of my chosen color and just kind of blend that in. Again, it's your project. You design it how you want it to be. I'm going to put a little bit of the chosen color, my turquoise color, on top of here. Add to a little bit of the white. I'm going to go back to my color just to put a little bit on top of here. And add a little white in there. Really get your, excuse me, your brush into those tiny little areas. And we have to like dab the paint in there. Another important thing is kind of look at your sculpture from different angles, because sometimes when you're just painting in one direction, you can't see what's happening on the other side. So you may want to lift up your sculpture and look at it from a different angle, or move yourself around the table, because again, we don't want to see that brown poking through from the cardboard. We want the whole thing to be one color with the ombre effect. So, you know, paint it one way, let it dry, go back around and look at it from a different angle, and you might have to just touch up some spots. So I'm going to finish painting mine. You do the same, and then I will check back with you. So now our seahorse is totally painted. We've gotten in all the little spots, and the whole thing is covered with our chosen color. So now the next part, if you've decided to do it, is adding glitter paint. For the glitter paint, we're just putting a little bit on top, again, to add a little enhancement, a little detail to our seahorse. You can use any brush. I'm just going to use this little smaller one. And what you're going to do is dip into your paint and just decide where you want the glitter paint to be. So if you look at my previous sample, I've just kind of highlighted some of the areas like the seahorse's eye, parts of the spike, his fin, and some of the details towards the bottom. You can put on as much or as little as you want. So I'm just going to brush it right over the top. And before you do the glitter paint, just make sure that your seahorse is completely dry from your chosen paint color. I just think whenever you have the opportunity to add a little bit of glitter to stuff, it just makes everything better. I love glitter paint. So I'm just brushing it over some of these areas. It's kind of like glitter mixed in with clear paint, so you can actually add it onto all the places if you want. Just adds a nice little bit of detail on there, and really kind of gives us a resemblance of a seahorse swimming in a sparkling ocean. It depends on the glitter paint. There's like big pieces of glitter in there. You might want to just spread that out a little bit, or you might want to leave it the way that it is. You're the artist, you decide. So finish up your glitter paint, and then I will check back with you. I think our recycled Art Seahorses look sensational. Not only did we create fantastic art today using recycled materials, but we helped the environment as well. I had fun today and I hope you did too. Until next time, keep smiling, keep dreaming, and keep creating.